Hey, how's it going, guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we're going to be doing the cheapest RTX 3080 gaming PC.
So this is the collaboration with the members of the Tech Fam, which there are a lot of people who participate in this collaboration. If you want to watch their builds, links in the description down below. It's kind of a competition, but what we decided to do was build something that none of you at home should do. Before we talk about that, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, because we at least got to make money somehow.
Today's video is brought to you by Owned, your one-stop shop for all your streaming needs. You know by now that Owned has all the streaming assets you need, from overlays, alerts, custom avatars, and even the ability to make a custom channel trailer. But now they have a service called Owned Pro, which is a plugin that makes it very easy to use their overlays and alerts in OBS Studio. Owned Pro will also come with a Twitch chatbot and copyright-free music in the future, so it'll help you to protect yourself from DMCA takedowns on your streams and videos. You can try Owned Pro for free right now using the link in the description down below, and you can also sign up for the monthly subscription that gives you access to even more features that can be easily canceled without any questions. So if you're a streamer who wants to take their stream to the next level, definitely check the link in the description down below and give Owned a shot. Thanks again to Owned for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into this PC build, shall we?
So as Matt just informed you guys, don't do this. Like, don't even think about doing it. Don't even do this with a 3070 or a 3060, okay? Because the whole concept is that we're spending $300 on all the other components besides the 3080. So basically the whole contest is we have to try to make the best build that's not over $300 as far as just the components minus the 3080 goes, and you know, who's gonna actually perform the best and be like the most practical. Ours is going to be very practical, okay? It's all new parts, stuff that you could buy in the links in the description down below. Just don't get the 3080 with it. Yeah, we're gonna roll with this and just see how it goes.
Of course, other people in the competition might have gone the used parts route. We actually spent hours looking around on used parts, and then we were like, you know what? We like to add some practicality to this competition, and we went new just to see what we could do. So will this little CPU be able to handle it? It won't. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about every single part here and how it makes up this horrendous PC build.
This is the Intel i3 9100F. So this is 9th gen, so it's a generation behind. It's really not a bad processor. They're only like $84, and it's a true quad core. So it's kind of like 3200G level to give you guys an idea as far as Ryzen goes. So it's not a bad processor, it's just, it's not good for this thing right here. It's not good, okay? It's just not gonna work well, but it will work. So we have that much going for us. And we'll have all the prices that we paid for everything on screen. We actually took screenshots from the day that we bought all this, so the date's there and everything. We did have to include shipping with everything as well. That's part of the contest. We can't, you know, put in RGB strips or fans without accounting for them. So this is the MSI H310M Pro motherboard. So this is just a micro ATX motherboard. It's honestly one of the cheapest ones you can get that'll support this 9100F. So, you know, we had to go cheap. We had to make it work, budget friendly, yay. Now for RAM, we could have gone cheaper. We could have gotten 8 gigs. We could have gotten even some used stuff, but this is just brand new T-Force Vulcan Z, and it's 3000 megahertz, 16 gigs, dual channel. The reason we did this is because we paid like $49.99 for these 2 sticks of 16 gigs, so you're not gonna have to upgrade anytime soon. And like we said, we're going for practicality here. We're not going for like the absolute best you could do with like a Xeon and 8 gigs of RAM and no upgrade path, because we wanted this build to actually be usable once the 3080's out of it, and that's kind of what we're able to do with this. And then for storage, okay, most of the guys we think probably did hard drives. We decided to go with the Silicon Power 256 gig SSD. Now the main issue with this is we know 500 or 512 would have been plenty for all the games we need, but all of the programs and games that we're all using to benchmark have to fit on this drive, including Windows. So hopefully it's gonna fit. If not, we're gonna have to figure something out and maybe go a little bit over budget, because right now we're like right at the top of the $300 budget.
Now you guys know what this is. I'll go ahead and unbox it again real quick. This is the RTX 3080. It's actually just been sitting on our shelf ever since we did our PC build that we did featuring it. That actually made sense with a 3950X. This right here, such a beautiful card. I am so sorry for what we're about to do to you, but we're gonna go ahead and put this in this PC build and just see how extreme the bottlenecking is gonna be. Now this is one of the hardest parts of this competition, the power supply. As you guys know, the new 3000 series is pretty power demanding, especially because it uses this 12-pin connector with the 2 adapters. So we had to spend more money on a higher wattage power supply. This right here is the Ars Game 650 watt power supply. I don't know if this is gonna work. It's been a pretty popular power supply on Amazon recently. People have been buying them, haven't had any issues. It is 650 watts, or at least it claims to be. It is not a normal name brand, but we did get it at a really good price point, and this is really our only hope of making this new build work if we went with the new power supply. So we thought we'd give it a shot. 650 is kind of cutting it close, but with the i3 being pretty low wattage, I think this will work out just fine, I think. And look who has made its grand reappearance, DIY PC, with the Solo T2 BK case. Is this thing pretty? No. Is it cheap? Yes. It is, well, not a cardboard box. If it was up to us, we would just put in a cardboard box or leave it on an open test bench just for this video, but we needed a case. So we went with this really cheap one. I imagine a lot of the other guys are gonna do the exact same case because it's probably the cheapest one you can get on Amazon or Newegg right now. That actually looks somewhat decent. Not great airflow, but it should fit our graphics card, fit this entire build. And you know what, I'm just done talking about it. I just wanna put this thing together, get it benchmarked, and just, you know, be done with this. Be done with this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have this monstrosity of a gaming PC all put together, let's talk about some benchmarks real quick. Now, the benchmarks we are using today are a set list of benchmarks that were created for this collaboration because this is a competition and we want to see which PC out of everyone in the tech fam who's participating is the best, and we need to have some set benchmarks that have either built-in benchmarks or things that we can actually get some sort of data to compare that with, and those being Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Rainbow Six Siege, Final Fantasy 15, Blender, Time Spy, and Cinebench multi and single core. If you want all the settings for the games we are testing, links in the description down below or somewhere in the description, I'll be sure to include it. I may forget to mention it when talking about each game, so if you want to know the specific settings we ran with, check the description. But we decided to test these games at 1080p, and we're trying to just see who has the best computer, even though I bet all of ours are going to kind of suck in one way or another. First up, we tested Shadow of the Tomb Raider with their built-in benchmark and got an average of 68 FPS. That is not great with an RTX 3080. Keep in mind, on 1440p max settings with the RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 9 3950X, we got over 100 plus FPS at 1440p. So yeah, there's a big bottleneck occurring here, and that's what we expected. The next game we tested was Final Fantasy 15 and their free built-in benchmark, and it ended up with a score of 8,464. If you want to compare your PC to this PC, download the benchmark in the description down below. It's totally free, doesn't require the game at all, and you can test it on your PC and see what kind of score you get. The next game we tested was Rainbow Six Siege, and we actually averaged 292 FPS, but that's not that much of a good sign because Rainbow Six Siege is actually a pretty easy game to run, and it is way more CPU bound than it is GPU bound most of the time, so 292 FPS is probably not that impressive compared to the rest of the competition. The next benchmark we did was Blender. Using Blender's separate benchmarking tool that comes with some pre-made files, we decided to use the BMW and Fishy file, and we decided to render this using our CPU CPUs because we wanted to see, well, the performance of our CPUs separate from the GPUs, because all of us are using the exact same RTX 3080, and well, we decided to just see what our numbers are going to be with our CPUs. And with my poor i3 9100F, with the total time in seconds, it took 1,347 seconds to complete both runs, which is, well, miserable. I was sitting there staring at the screen for a long time waiting for it to end, and I just had no idea when it was going to end. Next up is 3D Mark Time Spy, and at the end of the benchmark run, we got a score of 11,034. Again, 3D Mark Time Spy is a benchmark you can download at home and give it a shot and see how your system compares. And lastly, we decided to test Cinebench, and in the multi-core test, we got a score of 1,553, which is, well, to be expected for an i3 9100F. And then in the single core department, we got a score of 422, which is where the i3 9100F might have an advantage over other people in the competition because it is newer hardware. So that was kind of our idea here, is hoping that the newer hardware would carry us, even though it's just a quad-core processor, but in most situations, it's still a major bottleneck. So overall, I'm actually pretty happy with how our PC turned out. Is it going to be the best one in the competition? Probably not, especially if some of the guys got some really good used parts deals, but we wanted to see what we could do using all new parts. And one thing I was very impressed with was the power supply we got. This is a power supply that's readily available on Amazon, and at 650 watts, it worked really well with the RTX 3080. While be it we are using lower end hardware like a 9100F, so it's not really being pushed to its absolute limits, we're most definitely going to take a look at this power supply again in a couple other PC builds on the channel just to mix things up a little bit, and well, it's actually not that bad. And also, the case that we went with from DIY PC kept our PC running really cool. We were only getting around 60-ish, 70-ish degrees Celsius on the RTX 3080, and the i3 was working perfectly fine. I was actually pretty impressed with that. I thought this thing would be an absolute heat box, but the airflow is actually decent with the 2 built-in fans. So now that we finished all this benchmarking, how about we go ahead and bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
All right, guys, so as you can tell, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but we knew that going into this. That's the point, is if you spend less money on the whole entire computer than you did on just the graphics card, then, well, it's probably not going to work the greatest.
This is an extreme case of bottlenecking. For those who don't know at home, if you pair something like a high-end card with lower-end components, the lower-end components are going to hold back that higher-end card, and you're going to get some issues. I wouldn't be surprised if we slapped in just a normal graphics card that would make sense with this. We might get close to the same performance because of that extreme bottlenecking just going down to the i3. But because we decided to go with the new route, I think we were able to make something that's, one, upgradable. So in theory, again, I still wouldn't recommend it. You could upgrade the system to make it a little bit more comparable, but overall, this was a fun challenge to do with the people from the Tech Fam. Definitely check out their videos to see how we compared to everyone else's. I know there's gonna be a lot of Xeon deal hunters out there who might get some different things, but we thought we'd go the new route, and yeah, it paid off pretty decently.
So if you want to buy any of this stuff, the links in the description will be down below. We'll probably make like a suggested build where it's going to be paired with like a 1660 Super or maybe a 2060 at most. Don't go any higher than that. And don't forget to check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And also do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. Time to rescue this poor 3080. It's been through enough.